Hello, gosh, sorry.
So this is Grace. So Grace is only about 8 months old. So she came in from a road accident when her mum was hit by a car. So she came in about a month ago now, and she's gaining weight pretty well and loves her bottle and pretty much just sleeps all the time. Yeah.
She looks very well looked after, I have to say. Grace looks like she has a very nice life there.
When things were bad, it was just hard going. It was really hard going. There were days I didn't know which way to turn. You would just get sent out on taskings, and trying to complete those taskings, stay safe, you know, safe properties and whatnot, was very, very challenging.
And Mike, was it the scale of it, or was it the weather conditions? Was it the intensity? What was the things that you found really, really difficult about it?
The whole lot, the absolute whole lot. You know, look, if you talked in terms of weather, William, Kate, I've never seen weather like that. Now, I've been firefighting for 20 years. I've done a few dust ups, and to go and have something basically chase you quicker than you can get away from it. And that's what it was like some days.
It must have been terrifying, Mike. And how many of you were having to tackle this monster, and what were the resources like for you guys to manage all that?
Once it all got scaled up, it was terrific. It was a great example of humankind coming to aid others that just could not take on the tasking that we had. And when you had time to breathe and sit back and have a look at it, it was pretty good, a pretty good feeling.
Am I right in saying you're a volunteer? So therefore you're running a business, are you, at the same time as you're doing all this?
I basically took about 4.5 weeks off work to go and just devote my time to being part of the effort that was needed. I was very lucky. My beautiful wife covered for me as far as getting back to customers and saying, look, Michael's a little bit busy today. Do you think he could come another time? Which had to happen on a number of occasions.
You had a good pair of hands helping you out, Mike, which is important.
Oh yeah, she's a good boss lady. As long as I behave, she helps me out.
Quite right. Good team effort. Love it.
Our initial range of jobs included provision of fresh drinking water for the township. They'd exhausted almost all of their reserves of fresh water just in fighting fires. So it was a pretty desperate situation where a community like Kingscote is literally trying to marshal its water resources. We were just one part of a big machine, though, I have to say. Quite a phenomenal national effort was underway to provide the resources that the community and the local and state resources needed to get at the task. Tremendous effort. I have to say, my heart went out to the local community members. It was such a trying time for them, but it was an absolute privilege to be able to help.
Well, I think both Catherine and I would say to you and Mike and to your teams, what a fantastically brilliant job you guys did, and sounds like some of the most difficult circumstances. And I think you should be very proud of yourselves and how much effort went into this.
And unfortunately, in the fires, we lost our home, all the infrastructure on the farm, so all the shearing sheds and workshops, majority of the fencing, all the plant and equipment, and unfortunately, we also lost half the livestock on the farm as well. So my husband, it was a pretty horrific sight when I came back to the farm the next morning. But I left prior to the fire coming through earlier in the day with the children. Yeah, it was a pretty traumatic time looking back at it now. But we've had so much support from strangers, as well as so much from our family and friends in the community. So we're really thankful for the support we've had. It's helped us to get through. We're obviously in the rebuilding stage still on the farm property, and we haven't really thought too much about building another house yet. We sort of just want to get our business back and operational, and a shearing shed up so we can shear the sheep and all of those sorts of things.
And how are your kids with it? as well. I mean, it's sort of really tough for you, you know, with the business and everything, but also trying to sort of manage sort of their worries and their fear as well. How are they doing that?
I've been pleasantly surprised at how well they have been coping. I guess I feel like there's actually been quite a lot of children affected. I guess they're not alone, and so they can relate to other kids that are going through this. And there's been so much support through the school and for us parents as well, which has really helped out.
Very pleased to hear that your life's rebuilding, you know, after what must have been a very traumatic and very difficult, you know, few months of this year. So we're really pleased to hear that you're smiling again, and it's you know, you've got plans in place to sort of rebuild and put your life back together again. Peter, I gather you're a bee owner on the island, is that right? And you lost quite a few of your hives, is that correct?
Up until that day, we had not lost any of our 1,100 hives, but that day we lost 500, just over 500 hives. They were all full of honey because it had been Christmas, New Year, and we probably lost 20 odd ton of honey that one day. You know, my son lost all of his livestock, all of his vehicles, except one ute, and yeah, so it's been fairly tough.
It's so sad to hear your story, and also so much loss as well. I mean, you know, physically you've lost so much, but emotionally as well, you know, to see your livelihood, your personal possessions, your business and everything being taken away from you in such a quick way as well.
We've got to learn from what's happening in California. We've got to learn what we experienced last summer, and we've got to change, and we've got to manage better for things that we can do to reduce fuel loads and reduce the risk to the community.
No, you're right. There's a lot we need to do globally as well to tackle this and to bring awareness to the problem. And also, I think, like you say, protecting communities is an essential part of this, isn't it? Because it's going to be rural communities predominantly who sadly take the brunt of a lot of these problems and these issues around the world. So it's very important, like you said, that we talk to and help protect communities.
My husband Sam and I own the wildlife park here, and when all the fires started, we had essentially all of the wildlife from the fires coming through. It was mostly koalas. We had over 600 koalas come through during the whole bushfire season, and there was probably about 100 kangaroos and wallabies, possums, echidnas, all sorts of different things. But yeah, out of those kind of 600 koalas, we've now had about 250 go back to the wild, which is pretty incredible.
What sort of damage was done, Donna, for the wildlife population? Was it predominantly, like you say, koalas? Did they take a big impact from the fire?
The fire was traveling that fast and that hard that it was absolutely unstoppable, and that wasn't just for humans getting out, it was the same for the animals as well. But the koalas, they essentially are just in their trees. They're not a fast animal, they don't have that method of getting away. So when they were hit, they were one of the hardest species hit on the island. And unfortunately, prior to the fires, there was estimated around 60 to 80,000 koalas on Kangaroo Island. And since the fires now, they're doing surveys at the moment, but they're estimating the numbers only to be around 5 to 10,000.
What?
More than half the population.
That's devastating.
Yeah.
How's the country part been affected, you know, yourselves with the business and caring for the animals and having tourists and stuff? Has that taken a big hit as well?
We were shut for probably about 2 weeks all up because there was that many animals coming in. And then obviously we were hit with COVID as well. So like Peter, we were shut for around 8 weeks all up for COVID as well before we reopened to tourists again.
Yeah, nothing like you guys going through your wildfire and then a global pandemic coming along. It doesn't help with...
Yeah. No, that's it. It's made a big difference to tourism over here, that's for sure.
Thank you so much for your time and for giving us an update and filling us in with the stories and what's been happening. We really appreciate your time, and just fantastic to hear the community spirit once again down in Australia, as always, which is what Catherine and I see when we come down there. You always feel the community spirit, and Aussies are very good at looking after each other, and it's fantastic to see you're all, you know, pulling together. And I'm really glad, you know, both Catherine and I are glad to hear that the support is there for you all as well. And as the Brigadier touched on, you know, the mental health implications as well as the financial implications and all this on everyone is going to take its toll for a while. So I do hope all of you feel that you've got that support, you've got someone you can speak to, you've got somewhere you can go and receive support, whether it's financial or whether it's just having a chat. So please do look after yourselves, and hopefully, Catherine and I, one day when the world goes back to whatever kind of normality we have in the future, we can come and visit you all and come and see Kangaroo Island for ourselves.